this part here. What would we call that in an email? Signature. How often should we include a signature on emails? Always, yeah. And listen, I do find that there's a tendency when you're setting up your email configuration that people don't include titles in replies and forwards. And you know how hard it is for you to find someone's phone number? Really, really difficult. So make your signature nice and neat and short and sharp, but always have it. Don't skimp on it. Hands up. Who has a signature block on their email? Hands up. Well done. Well done. Absolutely. Everyone should have a signature block. It's incredibly professional and finishes off your email. And how much time does it save you? Yeah, absolutely. Making it easy for the reader and making it easy for you too. So include a nice little signature block as well. There's some other little minor techniques and tips in this particular email that can be quite useful. And one of them is the use of contractions. What do I mean by contractions? This is a sort of a grammatical thing. What do I mean by contraction in English? Two words together. Contracting two words. Absolutely. Can anyone spot the contraction in this email? Here's. Yeah, here is. Now let's look at that. When would we use a contraction in an email? And that could be I'm, or I've, or I'll, or wasn't, or whatever the contraction might be. When would we use a contraction? And when would we not? What do you think? When it's formal, you don't. Absolutely. Remember we talked about those sort of very formal, dear sir, madam, yours sincerely emails are actually quite rare. So generally, the rule is use a contraction in your email. And we use a contraction in speech all the time as well. So unless we're scolding a child, do not do that again. Most of the time we would use contractions in speech all the time. So contractions, great in your email, not so good in your reports though. So that's the time to remove them, or in those formal letters. So the use of contractions, and you can say that in expressed here as well. Again, you'll see in sentence case, if you're talking about Office Professional Edition, of course you're going to have uppercase there. It slows down the readability, but that's the title of the software, so you can't do anything about that. So you're really wanting to communicate that in a very effective way. Nice white space, nice structure, and again, a very clear call to action. Please let me know how to fix this. Nice and positive, and nice and direct for our reader to understand. What do I want you to do to help me? What do I want you to do next? So an example there of an email that we could use. We've talked about some of these things, but it's just good to sort of refresh. What do you think? What about this checking our email, punctuation, spelling, grammatical errors? What's the best way for us to do this? What's the best way for us to check our email? What was that? Autocorrect. Type in the word first where? In a Word document, absolutely. If you're unsure of the spelling, it's always a great strategy. If it comes with a squiggly line, you know you need to change it. Yeah. Now, what are the challenges with using autocorrect on an email? Remember, you're always smarter than the computer. I know it's probably hard for you to believe, but humans are always smarter. So yes, use autocorrect, but that does not mean that we don't proofread. We don't read over, give it a once over. This one will be familiar, I'm sure. So, how does this compare? Looking at all the things we just covered in terms of our email writing. What is good about this email and what could be improved about this particular email? First of all, what's good about it? Yes, lovely. So there's nice thank you at the end. It's a nice, positive, polite ending. Yeah, what else? There's no salutation, absolutely. That's a really good point. In this case, why might that be okay? Who is the receiver of this email? Yeah, and it's just it's an info box. It's an info box. So in this case, you would think that we don't actually know that it's Saeed or Jasmine or whoever it might be receiving the email. Definitely, if you had the name, the salutation would improve the email. But in this case, it might be an exception to that rule when it's just a generic inbox that we're sending it to. Probably one thing we haven't talked about is the type of font we use in an email, and also the use of things like exclamation marks, question marks, and emoticons. So what about the font? What would be an example of a font that has a professional or neutral look? Who's got some examples? Times New Roman. How do we feel about Times New Roman? When was the last time Times New Roman was default on Microsoft product? Probably before we were born. Times New Roman, incredibly old-fashioned. Incredibly old-fashioned. Stay away from Times New Roman. Arial's great. Arial's great. Verdana, Garamond. So it's the Calibri, of course, which is now the default. So these become nice, neutral, formal fonts that we can use. We want to have a fresh look in our email. So let's get it. What font size? 12. Fabulous. Absolutely. 12. Now, if you're trying to fit your email up on a page, you can probably get it down to 11 if you really need. Now, what you'll find is in your workplaces, and you guys probably know this already because you do a lot of this, your workplaces will already have a preset font, probably an organizational font that they've chosen. So often it's a good question to ask. What font would you prefer me to write my emails in if it's not set up and default already? And that also goes for font size. In particular, something to ask when you do join an organization is, do you have a style guide? Do you have a writing style guide? And that can really help you to avoid some of the common mistakes that people might have made. So when you're involved in your induction, a great question to ask. And that gives us all the little hints and tips on how the business wants us to write. What about our little friend here, the exclamation mark? What is the use of this one? Surprise. Yes. So how surprised are we in business? Just once. So only one. We're going to use it, and it can be used very effectively because it includes what? What does it do in our email that we don't actually have? Tone and expression, absolutely. So it's very powerful, very useful to that. A little bit of lift, a bit of tone, a bit of humor in our email, but again, don't overdo it. Now this also, I don't know if I've got it here, but the other one to think about is the priority. That's the other time we use this one in terms of our email preferences, the priority marking. Because when we have this on our email and our preferences, it suggests that the email is of a what level of priority? High, a high priority. So when would you send a high priority email? What do you think? When would you send a high priority email? When there's a deadline. When it's a genuine high priority. So watch that all of your emails don't come out as high priority, because people can get really over it. Yeah, because it comes up in their email view if your emails have high priority. So it can be a bit overkill. So using those with caution as much as we possibly can. We've been talking about our recipient, our reader, our audience. So what is the confidentiality aspects? If in doubt, what would you do? If you're in doubt about whether or not you could attach something, could send something externally, what would the best suggestion be? Ask your manager, ask your supervisor, absolutely. Yes. Is it okay if I attach this particular spreadsheet? Or, you know, what is the impact of me including this? Or how do you feel about me sending them our blah blah, whatever it might be? So just check if you're unsure, because it can actually be a bit of a breach as well. We've talked about these as well. One thing to just be aware of is, of course, that, and it was just mentioned at the beginning there, diamonds are forever. And emails come pretty close as well. So it is one thing to be aware of. They are saved, and you guys would know this, a lot of people do. So it's good to be aware of what you write, and it can be very hard to sort of erase it. So think twice rather than writing once. Have a little read here, just summarising our external email etiquette. That's one to be aware of too, the jargon that we might use. So spelling things out and avoiding using too many abbreviations or acronyms in your email as much as we possibly can.